Welcome to None Dare Call It Ordinary, the podcast that digs into the unusual, unorthodox, and downright unsettling beliefs found at the depths of the internet and the heights of paranoia. I'm your host, Dylan, and with me is the kinetic and kaleidoscopic Brent.
That's true. I am kaleidoscopic.
And kinetic. You can't forget that one.
Yeah,
you're
right.
moving around everywhere. We all know it. We've all seen it.
That's right. And it's I'm looking at the holidays for today. We're recording on November 4th.
Well, I think the real holiday that we should be talking about is on Tuesday, and that's Election Day.
Yeah.
Brent, you already voted.
Go vote.
You've got early voting there in Nevada.
I voted so hard, I broke the machine. So that's not good, but don't do that when you're voting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I voted early voting in Nevada, which is great.
After it records your vote and gets sent to the authorities. I think that's the key.
That's right. Yep.
I had the opportunity, if I was going to be deceptive, to early vote, because we don't have early voting here in Michigan. We do have absentee voting, which I went with my fiance to do because she's actually going to be out of town.
Right.
And I suppose I could have said, I'll be out of town too, and voted then and there, but I just know that some right-wing Jacob Wall type was going to be hiding with a camera, and I would be, patient zero for the voter fraud epidemic enveloping this country, and I just didn't want to be part of it. I'll just go on Tuesday like every other good, hardworking American.
That's right. You get 2 hours
So
off.
Everyone out there listening to this, this will be out before Election Day, because I work from home now. I don't kill bugs anymore.
Woo-hoo.
I don't know, so I can actually put out episodes in a timely manner.
Unless there's
quite amazing.
If there's bugs like coming in your house, you'll kill them, I'm sure. But
I know. Not if I'm not paid to.
That's true. Yeah, it's not like you got to keep all the spray and stuff.
Yeah, no, I didn't. At least that's what they think. Ooh. But no, I'm not being paid, so all the bugs are allowed to live in my home. Unless I'm paid top dollar to get rid of them. So Tuesday, Election Day, November 6th.
Go vote.
Go vote.
Please.
And vote as hard as you can without breaking the machine before it registers your choice. We also have an announcement to make. We're going to try, we're in the process of putting our episodes out on YouTube. We have a YouTube page associated with, it's just None Dare Call It Ordinary. I think it's associated with our Gmail email, nonedarecallitordinary@gmail.com. But I think if you just search None Dare Call It Ordinary on YouTube, you'll pull up our page. We don't have anything yet because I'm still in the process of figuring all that out. But we are going to have, because we've been working so hard on the Russia investigation, we figured, hey, let's have a live stream during the election, or more towards the end. So it'll be 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we'll start.
Yes.
And we'll be there. We'll looking at the election returns, see how depressed we should be.
God, hope not.
Or how elated we should be. We'll figure it out with you. So if you're like me and you like the election party, but you don't want to leave your home.
Yes.
In case of any kind of frustration, or if you I'm going to vote 7 a.m. and just watch CNN for 15 hours. So I figured I would bring what I've learned to the people.
That's good.
Might as well. I'm bringing it into my brain anyway, so might as well. But enough of that. This is our third episode in our Russia investigation series. There will be 4. And this episode takes us from the appointment of Robert Mueller as special counsel for the investigation, May 17th, 2017, and ends on December 1st, 2017, when Michael Flynn, it's when he enters a guilty plea for his role in the whole fiasco.
An early birthday present to me, since my birthday's on the 5th, so that was good.
Oh, that's a good birthday present for you.
Thanks, Michael.
That must have been nice. The Flynnmeister, he's making us happy. And that's all we can really ask for, can't we?
On May 18th, President Trump tweets that the investigation into collusion between his campaign and Russians, quote, is the single greatest witch hunt of a politician in American history.
I'm not quite sure if that's right. Those Salem witch trials were pretty intense, and I'm pretty sure, I imagine some politicians were wrapped up in that whole witch hunt thing.
That's right.
I think if you don't get set on fire at the end of it, it's not the single greatest witch hunt.
I think you're right. Exactly. I don't think you can walk away from this without being on a stake and on fire and say this is the great.
He's still tweeting, so it's not yet reached that level. Maybe it'll happen. Right. I don't know.
You don't know yet. Yeah.
I'm not a witch. I can't see the future.
Right.
I want that to be very clear for our listeners.
You're not a witch. Got it.
Yeah, don't go calling your local witchfinder general to try to get me in trouble. It's not going to work.
So, at a press conference standing next to the president of Colombia, as one does, Trump publicly denies he asked Comey to close down the FBI's investigation of Michael Flynn.
Yeah, the president of Colombia must feel real good that's what he's focusing on in that joint press conference.
All right. So, May 23rd, Trump retains advisor Mark Kazowitz as his private attorney for the Russian probe. Oh, we all remember Mark, right? Spelled with a C.
Wait,
Mark with a C.
What did Mark do? What did Mark Kazowitz do?
I have no idea.
Okay, so we don't remember.
I don't remember him at all.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So this is the Senate investigation, starting with May 23rd. Daniel.
Yeah, this
Coates.
is a lot of this episode is a lot of the Senate and House investigations.
Yeah, exactly.
So be prepared.
Get ready for some investigations. You know, Comey's listening, obviously.
He loves it. He just loves it. Even if he's not the one opening and closing the investigations, investigations all day long.
May 23rd, Daniel Coates, Director of National Intelligence, appears at a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing and is asked if the Washington Post report on Trump's request to help him push back against the FBI's investigation is correct. So he declines the answer, saying, quote, "It's not appropriate for me to comment publicly on any of that."
It's definitely not appropriate.
Privately, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But publicly, you can't do it. You can't out yourself publicly for doing untoward things. So I think he's right. I think that is inappropriate.
Yep. And now the House investigation. So this is May 23rd again. So John Brennan, former CIA director, testifies before the House Intelligence Committee about the federal investigation into possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. During an exchange between Republican Representative Trey Gowdy, Brennan says he doesn't know if any, quote, such collusion exists, but was concerned about contacts between people involved in the Trump campaign and Russian officials. He said, quote, "I encountered and am aware of information and intelligence that reveal contacts and interactions between Russia officials and U.S. persons involved in the Trump campaign that I was concerned about because of known Russian efforts to suborn such individuals, and it raised questions in my mind, again, whether or not the Russians were able to gain the cooperation of those individuals." He says, "I don't know whether or not such collusion, and that's your term, such collusion existed. I don't know. But I know that there was a different basis of information and intelligence that required further investigation by the Bureau to determine whether or not U.S. persons were actively conspiring, colluding with Russian officials." End quote.
I love that. That's your word. That's your word. I didn't say it.
I never use the word collusion.
Whoa. I don't use any C words. Yeah. Collusion,
right.
Cat, catastrophic.
Yep. Keep it PG.
Cacophony.
Keep it PG. Okay.
Correlate. None of those. That's your word, Gowdy.
That's right, Gowdy. Typical Gowdy. So, the Kushner-Kislyak back channel. Oh, boy.
Ooh.
So, May 26, 2017, the Washington Post reports that Kushner and Russian Ambassador Kislyak discussed setting up a secure communication channel between the Kremlin and Trump's transition team at a meeting in early December 2016.
Back channels, man. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's never going to work for you.
Exactly. So, a day later, on the 27th of May, H.R. McMaster's national security advisor downplays reports of Kushner discussing so-called back-channel communications with the Kremlin, saying that the U.S. has, quote, back-channel communications with a number of countries. So generally speaking, about back-channel communications, what that allows you to do is to communicate in a discreet manner.
Oh, so it's
really
fine.
just we didn't know what it meant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't know what a back-channel communication is anymore.
No.
I think that's because I've only done front channel communications.
Right, I've never seen... Well, you know what actually comes to mind? I don't know if you've seen House of Cards. There's a scene...
I have.
Yes. There's like some scene where I think Frank Underwood, Kevin Spacey is like behind... He meets like under like the stairs of some place in like the White House, and he's like smoking a cigarette talking to like the Russian guy, which is clearly supposed to be Putin. I forget his name in the show, but yeah. So that's like a back alley, like a back door to another area. So I don't know if that's really...
So if you call someone in a back alley, that's the back alley communication.
Yeah, let's meet in the back channel.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah. Okay.
A physical place, I guess. I don't know.
So that's why that's what Scott Pruitt needed. He wanted a back alley installed in the EPA. so he could have the secure
That's
back
right.
channel communications
Exactly.
he was looking for.
Yep.
Okay, now this is all starting to make a lot of sense.
So we're still in June here.
Yep, so now that's May. That's the end of May. So now we're getting into June, and we're starting heavy on June 1st. We got Putin. He denies role in U.S. elections and suggests that, quote, patriotic hackers outside government may be behind the attack.
That makes sense.
Yeah, patriotic hackers.
Yeah. It's like, right. I mean, it's part of your service to this country.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing I know that's the most patriotic thing a computer knowledgeable person can do is to just completely suborn and undermine the election process. I mean,
Always.
if there's one thing, the only thing less patriotic than Hillary Clinton is democracy itself. A few days later, on June 5th, an NSA contractor by the name of Reality Winner, and that is her name, that is Reality, she is charged with leaking classified information regarding Russia's hacking activities.
Sounds more like a reality loser to me, if you know what I mean.
Ooh, ho, ho, ho.
Sorry.
Yeah. Although reality itself might be a winner.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
And we're
actually
learning-
losing right now, but
But June 5th, though, is Reality
That's a
Day.
good one.
Their reality was more, we learned more about it
Yep.
on June 5th.
that's true.
Thank you, Reality
Which is actually
Winner.
my half birthday.
What's a half birthday?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I remember like I was, we used to celebrate that slightly as a kid, didn't you? Just be like, hey, this is the half birthday. It's my 6-month anniversary.
Oh,
being alive.
okay, I got you. Okay.
I don't know if half birthday is actually the appropriate term for that, but
It is now.
It is
It's
now.
your half birthday, June 5th.
happy half birthday.
Put it on your calendar. It's now a national holiday. All right, and it wouldn't be the Russia investigation without good old Michael Flynn,
Central.
former NSA, getting in here.
Yeah.
On the next day after the leak on June 6th, a whole bunch of news on Flynn. CNN reports that Michael Flynn gives more than 600 pages of documents to the Senate Intelligence Committee. These documents were subpoenaed on May 10th by the committee. Also on this day, the Washington Post reports that Trump asked Director of National Intelligence Dan Coates in a meeting on March 22nd, quote, if he could intervene with then FBI Director James B. Comey to get the Bureau to back off its focus on former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and its Russia probe. The report was based on, quote, officials who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive internal matters. Spokesman for the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, Brian Hale, issues a statement that said Coates, quote, never felt pressured by the president or anyone else in the administration to influence any intelligence matters or ongoing investigations. And the anyone else is Ivanka.
Right. Exactly.
He didn't feel pressured by, any of the Trumps. Eric, Barron,
Barron's always
DT
pressuring people.
Jr.
Yeah.
Oh, Barron, he's
He's the worst.
He's got a role to play in all of this. His hands aren't clean. All right, and then the very next day, June 7th, we have more Senate investigation news. At a Senate Intelligence Committee hearing, Senator Marco Rubio, Little Marco, I believe,
Yeah, I was going to say
is his official Trump name.
Yes.
That is all the birth certificates. I believe that was an executive order signed today, if I'm not mistaken, is that every U.S. citizen, their new legal name is actually a fun Trump name.
Yes.
So
Yep.
Marco Rubio is now legally Little Marco.
Kinetic Brent. I'm screwed.
Yeah, you're Kinetic Brent. I don't know what I am
know.
yet. I'll get something
Yeah.
good. Anyway, Senator Little Marco asked Dan Coates, National Intelligence Director, if he has ever been asked, quote, by the president or the White House to influence an ongoing investigation. Coates declines to comment, rather saying it would be inappropriate to answer that question at an open hearing. Quote, I am willing to come before the committee and tell you what I know and don't know, Coates says. What I'm not willing to do is share what I think is confidential information that ought to be protected in an open hearing, and so I'm not prepared to answer your question. Also, the Director of National Security Agency, Michael S. Rogers, at this same meeting also declines to speak about any conversations he had with the president, adding, quote, in the 3+ years that I have been Director of the National Security Agency, to the best of my recollection, I have never been directed to do anything I believe to be illegal, immoral, unethical, or inappropriate.
Adding, quote, I like beer.
He still likes beer. My fiance and I, last night, we went to go see A Hard Day's Night on the big
The
screen,
Beatles, yeah.
which is not really a movie. It doesn't have a plot. And John Lennon looks just like Brett Kavanaugh. So I hope that ruins everyone's days the way it ruined mine.
There needs to be, let's start a conspiracy with that one. Because
we
the whole, like,
could.
what's the fall McCarthy or something? Or the guy
Yeah,
that's
the
like,
fake,
not-
the fake
like
Paul
he really
McCartney.
died. Yeah. So let's start a
That's so
Kavanaugh.
good. It started right now. That's going to be our next episode. There's a more extreme version of the Paul is dead conspiracy theory where all the Beatles were replaced several times.
Just by other people?
Yeah, okay. So there's like 10 or 12 Beatles total.
Yep.
And they would like perform at different places on the same night.
Right.
To just milk that Beatles cow dry of all its...
So much easier. I didn't know if it was like a Weekend at Bernie's thing where they actually did die and then they were like propped up.
Oh, that would be really good. It's funny, it goes all back because in Brett Kavanaugh's calendar, there was a weekend with a guy named Bernie. So it all goes back around.
Full circle.
Like he had a weekend at Bernie's. That movie is about him.
I mean, the guy could have been blackout drunk or at least, I don't know. Maybe he was dead. It was a dead man, actually, named Bernie.
No, he was blackout sober. We all know it. That's the way he lives.
Very organized, though. Keeps it on the calendar, which is good.
All the calendars, which... All right, no more of that. That's already happened. So let's see here. So also on June 7th, in advance of his June 8th testimony in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee, James Comey submits his written testimony. In this testimony, Comey states that he had, quote, 9 one-on-one conversations with President Trump in 4 months, 3 in person and 6 on the phone. Jeez. And you knew that was part of the typewritten notes. Yeah. He's writing that thing. And he's going to, publish it online, his, Comey Trump love fantasy fan fiction. Yep. And, he's keeping track. He wants a clear timeline to make it real accurate. All right. And before we actually get to more Comey stuff, specifically his testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee, we do have a brief Trump aside, another June 7th event. President Trump states that he intends to put Christopher Wray as FBI director. Wray was an assistant U.S. Attorney General during the George W. Bush administration, who was in charge of the Justice Department's Criminal Prosecutions Division. I like this power move of doing it right before.
Yeah.
He wants Comey to know who your replacement is before you speak. All right, and back to Comey on June 8th. James Comey testifies before the Senate Intelligence Committee. I believe this is the Lordy B. I hope there were tapes committee meeting, if I'm not mistaken. So this was a big deal when this happened.
Yep, Lordy B.
A Lordy B. Oh.
That's how you know it's a big deal, usually.
So Comey, he gives his testimony, and Trump's lawyer disputes Comey's testimony. So here's a quick summary from factcheck.org. As his written testimony detailed, Comey says the president asked him for his loyalty at a January 27th dinner and asked him to drop the Flynn investigation at a February 14th meeting, which we've already talked about all these events before in earlier episodes. He also says Trump asked that the FBI, quote, lift the cloud over his administration and publicly announced that the president is personally not under investigation on March 30th and April 11th. Comey also discloses that he gave a copy of his memo about his meeting with the president on February 14th to a friend with instructions that he share the contents of the memo with a reporter. He says he did so, quote, because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. Asked if the president's request to drop the Flynn investigation amounts to obstruction of justice, Comey says, I don't know. That's Bob Mueller's job to sort that out.
Bob Mueller's like, God damn it, Comey.
Yeah, one more thing I have to do. I just love this whole Mission Impossible style antics of like writing this memo and then giving it to a guy like, just, hey, you give it to somebody. Get it out there. Like, he couldn't just open up a fake, Gmail account. It's easy. I do it all the time. And then just send it out, I don't know, New York Giants fan 73 at gmail.com. Hey, look what I got. All right, the next day, on June 9th, during a joint press conference with Klaus Ioannis, the Romanian president, Trump denies that he told Comey to drop the Flynn investigation, saying, quote, I didn't say that. And once again, a press conference with a president of another nation, and really, Trump is really good at co-opting these events and just... There's really just one Trump press conference, and he just has different, extras involved coming in. Trump also says in response to the loyalty pledge, quote, I hardly know the man. I'm not going to say I want you to pledge allegiance. Trump said he is, quote, 100% willing to testify under oath regarding he and Comey's conversation, saying, no collusion, no obstruction, he's a leaker.
No collusion, no obstruction, he's a leaker. Meanwhile, there's P-tapes, maybe. All right. Sorry. Shouldn't have said it. Allegedly.
Whoa, yep. This is not a slanderous podcast.
It is not.
Das agrees. Das is keeping us in check. We can't be slandering the president here.
Little known fact, if you repeat no collusion, no obstruction, he's a leaker 3 times, Beetlejuice wearing a MAGA hat shows up, calls you a libtard, and then fades away.
No.
Nope.
Beetlejuice, clearly Jill Stein supporter.
That's true. That's a good point.
So that's totally inaccurate. Fake news. Also during this press conference, when a reporter starts to ask Trump a question hinting that he may have tape recordings of he and Comey's conversations, Trump says, "I'm not hinting anything. I'll tell you about it over a very short period of time."
Very short period of time.
Very short
I'll tell
period
you
of
all
time.
you want to know in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, you have 2 seconds. Just ask away. 1, 2. Oh, sorry, I gave you the opportunity, and you just squandered it. Typical mainstream media, enemy of the people. By the way,
That's right. Yes.
After this last, there was I don't know if you saw the reports of another shooter, an incel shooter, at the yoga studio, killed 2. But the mainstream media is the enemy of the people.
Right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So lastly, on June 9th, the House Intelligence Committee sent a letter to White House counsel McGahn asking if any such tapes exist, and if so, to turn them over to the committee by June 23rd. So now around this time is when, Mueller, he's been in job for a little over a month.
Ooh, that's
He's
long.
getting too much publicity for, Trump's taste. And there's some, rumors about maybe Trump will just fire him.
Yeah.
So June 12th, a friend of the president and CEO of Newsmax Media, Christopher Ruddy, told Judy Woodruff of PBS NewsHour that Trump is considering firing Mueller, saying, quote, "I think he's considering perhaps terminating the special counsel. I think he's weighing that option." And I know terminating doesn't mean killing in these circumstances. I'm pretty sure that's not what they're saying, but it's still a poor choice of words, I think.
It is.
It's a little rough.
Yes, exactly. We don't want to
fire, let go,
right?
Offer the opportunity to resign. Much nicer ways of describing this. Trump tweets in response that allegations of obstruction of justice are part of a, quote, witch hunt.
Witches shaking their heads. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the witches, all those, Wicca pagans out there, just real upset.
I know.
The next day, on June 13th, aboard Air Force One, Sarah Sanders, deputy press secretary, says the president has the right to fire Mueller if he so chooses, but he won't, saying, while the president has the right to, he has no intention to do so. Again, got to make sure everyone knows he totally can do it.
He can do it. He just doesn't think he will.
Exactly.
But he can in case.
Yes.
In case he wants to.
And then next is some more Senate investigation news. This is still on June 13th. The Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein tells the Senate Judiciary Committee that he alone has the authority to fire the special counsel and explains he has not seen any evidence of a reason to fire Mueller. No, that's right, Dasa. Don't disagree with me on air. Jeff Sessions testifies in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee, saying, quote, "The suggestion that I participated in any collusion, that I was aware of any collusion with the Russian government to hurt this country, which I have served with honor for 35 years, or to undermine the integrity of our democratic process is an appalling and detestable lie." According to factcheck.org, Sessions, who has acknowledged meeting with the Russian ambassador on 2 occasions, says he does not recall meeting Kisilak a 3rd time at Trump's foreign policy speech at the Mayflower Hotel in Washington, D.C. on April 27, 2016. "I don't recall it," Sessions says. "Certainly I can assure you nothing improper. If I had a conversation with him, and it's conceivable that occurred, I just don't remember it."
Wow. Way with words. So he remembers nothing improper happened, but luckily nothing happened at all. So we're good.
Yeah. It didn't happen, but if it did, and it could have happened, nothing improper happened.
It may have happened. Weird. It probably didn't happen. I don't know. It's very confusing.
Like every possible scenario.
It's covered.
He wants to close off impropriety at every gate. Let's see. Still on June 13th, Sessions declines to answer any questions about his conversations with the president regarding Comey's firing or any other matter. Quote, "Consistent with long-standing Department of Justice practice, I cannot and will not violate my duty to protect confidential communications with the president."
Wow.
I like here Sessions is like, not only won't I, but I can't.
Yeah.
He's not doing that stuff like, oh, I can, but I won't.
It will be improper.
He can't even do it.
So what is Mueller up to anyway, huh?
Yeah, what is Mueller? It seems like he's just kind of just hanging out in the background. Everyone's talking about him. But let's see, what is he doing? Yeah, too quiet.
Too quiet if you ask me.
You know what's true about all quiet people? They're all lying.
Yeah, if they're all trying to bring you down on indictments too.
Yeah, bring you down. So the next day, on June 14th, the Washington Post reports that special counsel heading the Russia investigation, Robert Swan Mueller, by the way, the third, has expanded his inquiry to include, quote, an examination of whether President Trump attempted to obstruct justice. The Post writes, 5 people briefed on the interview requests, speaking on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the matter publicly, said that Daniel Coates, the current director of national intelligence, Mike Rogers, head of the National Security Agency, and Rogers' recently departed deputy, Richard Ledyard, agreed to be interviewed by Mueller's investigators as early as this week. The investigation has been cloaked in secrecy, and it is unclear how many others have been questioned by the FBI.
Maybe cloak isn't the best word since we're talking about witches and witch hunts,
Oh,
that's kind of
cloaked in their giant pointy hats. And each was given an FBI
spell.
Official broomstick to go to be interviewed.
Exactly.
Standard. FBI standard broomsticks. Near this time, the Washington Post and the New York Times reports that Trump ordered that Mueller be fired, but relented after Don McGahn, White House counsel, threatened to quit. So what's the enemy of the people doing?
Yeah.
While all this stuff is going on, what is the mainstream media saying? So we already talked about the Washington Post and the New York Times. We're going to start with a tweet, June 15th. Trump tweets, "They made up a phony collusion with the Russian story. Found zero proof," 0 is capitalized. "So now they go for obstruction of justice on this phony story."
Justice
nice.
Justice capitalized too. Yeah, and I do like the addition of "nice" there. Like really caps it off a good tweet.
Yeah, I wish it was in all caps.
I know.
Then it would have really
That's
capped
true.
it off. I just love the capitalization, 0.
Yeah, it's great.
And justice. And, at least he has enough respect for justice to capitalize
that's
it. I like that.
I do too.
So also on June 15th, Washington Post reports that Mueller is conducting an investigation into the finances and business dealings of Kushner.
Oh, 666 Park Avenue.
Whoa. Just because he's Jewish doesn't mean he's satanic. We're not going to go that way here.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Also, the Washington Post states that the federal prosecutors and the FBI have been examining the financial dealings of other Trump associates. This includes Manafort, Page, and Flynn. Kushner's attorney, Jamie Gorelick, says in an email to the Post that it would be standard practice for the special counsel to examine financial records to look for anything related to Russia. And just to be clear, that's standard practice when investigating Kushner.
Mm-hmm.
And probably some of the other people on that list, too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was just thinking about how, I don't know why it came to my head, but I was just thinking about how annoying it's got to be for Christmas to get all your lawyers' all the gifts and stuff that to be exchanged. I'm just the logistics of having so many lawyers.
There's too many.
Lawyers representing other
their
lawyers.
lawyers have lawyers.
Yeah, it's really confusing.
Every lawyer needs a lawyer. I wonder if it's eventually a circle.
Yeah.
It's just a circle of lawyers.
Yeah, exactly.
Or there's a fundamental lawyer. There's
that starts
one person who's the lawyer for everybody.
He's just represents himself at the end.
Oh yeah, self-referential. I like that. These are all the different options we have. The Circle of Law. Near this date, so near June 15th, CNN reports intelligence chiefs told senators that the president asked them to deny any Russian collusion. And the New York Times reports that the Trump transition team orders former staff to keep all documents related to Ukraine or Russia.
But what about Pence?
Yeah,
I was wondering about Pence just suddenly right there.
Yeah, Pence has been really kind of out of it so far. This actually, he comes up, though, on June 15th, same day, Vice President Pence hires lawyer Richard Cullen, a partner at McGuire Woods and former U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia under President George H.W. Bush, to serve as his personal lawyer regarding all things regarding the Russia investigation.
All right.
He's also lawyering up.
Cool. Good for him. I mean, everybody gets a lawyer. Merry Christmas.
Everyone deserves a lawyer.
Yeah.
All right, and then we have a few other kind of odds and ends to finish out June. On June 16th, on Twitter, Trump says, "I am being investigated for firing the FBI director by the man who told me to fire the FBI director. Witch hunt!" And on the same day, Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, hires his own attorney to represent him in the Russia investigation.
It's lawyers all the way down, really.
All the way down. I don't... I'm glad we have so many of them. Yeah. We need a surplus of lawyers.
That's true.
I was just thinking with Christmas, it's even worse for Kushner because he's Jewish. And so with Hanukkah, you've got 8 days.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Too much.
Too many days.
On June 18th, Trump's lawyer, Jay Sekulow, says on CBS's Face the Nation that the president is not under investigation, saying, quote, "The fact of the matter is the president has not been and is not under investigation." Trump once again, for good measure, tweets that the investigation is a witch hunt.
You gotta do that.
And that's going to be a theme.
Yeah.
It's a witch hunt. Deal with it. The next day, on June 19th, Konstantin Kilmanik. I've been waiting for a Russian name to pop up this whole time.
Okay.
He Double K, a Manafort associate.
His middle name isn't Keith.
Oh,
man. Not good.
Ooh, yeah. Let's hope for his sake and America's that is not the case. So this Manafort associate, who may or may not have a middle name Keith, tells the Washington Post that he has no relation to Russian intelligence, while others have insisted he, quote, was, end quote, contacted. Next day again, June 20th, Sean Spicer states that he does not know if Trump believes the Russians attempted to meddle in the 2016 election. Maybe he should ask.
Yeah.
The next day, the 21st, Jared Kushner submits a third security clearance form, which amended it to include the June 2016 meeting.
So many forms.
So many forms, and I just feel like he's doing it one meeting at a time, and just adding, tacking on one little extra bit every time he resubmits. Like, can you just tell us about all the stuff right up front? This is a lot of paperwork we got to keep filling out.
All the boxes, please.
Yeah. The next day, the 22nd, Trump tweets, with all the recently reported electronic surveillance, intercepts, unmasking, and illegal leaking of information, I have no idea whether there are tapes or recordings of my conversations with James Comey, but I did not make and do not have any such recordings. In an interview on Fox News, Trump implies that he may not want Mueller in the job.
Gee, you think?
Yeah, I think. I have a sense that...
I always... Yeah. Once you start saying witch hunt, you may...
Yeah. I don't think he's really into the whole thing, to be perfectly honest, which is, it's sad. I think Mueller's doing a good job.
Yeah, me too.
On the 23rd, Trump acknowledges Russian meddling in a tweet and blames Obama for doing nothing to stop it.
Did you just call him Obama?
I think I did.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry.
Yes. We're now talk radio.
Obama. That's not even a good one. I remember, so...
No, it's horrible. I've never heard of that, though.
So on the 25th, Kislyak, the Russian ambassador, is recalled back to Moscow, not doing the best job, not keeping a low profile.
Yep.
And then on June 27th, Manafort registers retroactively as a foreign agent for his previous work in the Ukraine. This is the second time this has happened in the Trump campaign, and once again, I just don't think it works. I don't think you're allowed to do that.
Okay, so time for our patriotic month of July.
Oh, feels so patriotic.
July 4th. No one cares about that. So July 7th.
Yeah, we're just skipping over the 4th. We're just, it's so patriotic. We don't even need to celebrate the day.
That's exactly right. Plus, 3 days later, according to factcheck.org, Trump talks twice with Putin at the G20 summit. The first is a regularly scheduled meeting that lasted more than 2 hours. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson attended that meeting and discusses it with the media after it ends.
He sounds way cooler when you say it that way. Rex Tillerson.
Yeah, I know. I didn't mean to, but
Private investigator.
That sounds right. Yeah. The second conversation occurs at a dinner for G20 leaders and their spouses. Their mommies, or mothers. I'm sorry. That would be... mommies. That's not what Mike Pence calls his wife. Not mommy. He's not. Come on, this will be ridiculous. It's a mother. All right. So the White House would not disclose or confirm that second conversation until July 18th. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Ian Bremmer, president and founder of the Eurasia Group, revealed the previously undisclosed conversation in a newsletter to clients of his New York-based risk management company. So Bremmer said Trump went to Putin's table at some point during the dinner, and the two men spoke for, quote, roughly an hour. They spoke roughly.
Yeah, roughly for an hour, I believe is what that should say.
Yes. So White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer confirmed that Trump initiated the conversation, but he said it was brief and nothing more than pleasantries, quote, pleasantries, and small talk were exchanged. So there is no record of the conversation, which was facilitated only by a Russian interpreter. Well, that guy knows. Let's get him.
Yeah, let's subpoena him.
Yes.
He's got to get a lawyer. He's got to submit hundreds of pages of documents. Yeah, we need to get this done.
Let's do it. So, July 8th, the New York Times breaks a story of Donald Trump Jr., which is the president's son, if you didn't know, arranging
that's who that is this whole time? Oh, man, I had no idea.
I know. So he was arranging a June 9th, 2016 meeting with that Russian lawyer named Natalia V.
Veselnitskaya.
Yeah. At Trump Tower. So Donald Trump Jr. states that it was a, quote, short introductory meeting and, quote, we primarily discussed a program about adoption of Russian children that was active and popular with American families years ago and was since ended by the Russian government, but it was not a campaign issue at the time and there was no follow-up.
No,
he did come back
whatsoever.
with several children that he adopted. Just kidding. The next day, Donald Trump Jr. says, quote, the woman stated that she had information that individuals connected with Russia were funding the Democratic National Committee.
Son of a bitch.
And supporting Mrs. Clinton. Her statements were vague, ambiguous, and made no sense.
I think that last one kind of negates the previous two problems.
Yeah. He's Trump's son. Let's keep that in mind. All right. So no details or supporting information was provided or even offered. It quickly became clear that she had no meaningful information. Oh, man. That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. So the New York Times writes, he said that lawyer...
Veselnitskaya...
then turned the conversation to adoption of Russian children and the Magnitsky? Nope, that's not it.
Magnitsky. I don't think it's...
Magnitsky Act.
I believe it's Magnitsky.
Magnitsky Act. An American law that backlists suspected Russian human rights abusers. So the 2012 law so enraged President Vladimir V. Putin of Russia that he halted American adoptions of Russian children. Brutal.
It is pretty brutal.
Donald Trump Jr. said, quote, it became clear to me that this was the true agenda all along, and that the claims of potentially helpful information were a pretext for the meeting. So, I don't know, the one thing that seems clear to me on first look at Donald Trump Jr. is that the man definitely cares about children and adoption.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be his number one goal here.
Yeah, he talks about it all the time, too.
Yeah, he wrote that song.
So, just listen
Save
to
the
him,
Russian
people.
children.
July 11th. Donald Trump Jr. tweets pictures of the mail exchanges saying, here we go, let me try and get it this time, Veselnitskaya. No, close. But I think I mangled it at the end there. But
yeah, Veselnitskaya.
Nitskaya. There we go.
You got to practice.
I will.
This is going to be everyone's last name in a few years, so we really need to get this right now.
Okay, so he tweets pictures of the email exchanges saying that V, capital V, was not a government official, and that the information they suggested they had about Hillary Clinton, I thought was political opposition research. So, New York Times reports that Trump signed off on his son's statement about meeting with the Russian lawyer. So, July 12th, next day. Trump's attorney states that the president is not involved in drafting his son's statement regarding Russian meeting.
Yeah, at least he did something right. He did something on his own.
Exactly. So at a joint press conference with France's President Emmanuel Macron, Trump states that the Trump Tower meeting between Veselnitskaya and his top campaign aides is, quote, very standard in politics, end quote. Since Trump has so much experience in politics up to this point. I don't know if you've noticed that.
And
he does.
So much experience, once again, co-opting joint press conferences with world leaders about his domestic issues. I love it. He's keeping this going, and I like it.
Yep. So Trump says, quote, I think from a practical standpoint, most people would have taken that meeting. It's called opposition research, or even research into your opponent. That's very standard in politics. Politics is not the nicest business in the world, but it's very standard where they have information and you take that information.
Standard.
And if you don't like your standard political information, you can get a full refund as long as it's within the 14 business days and you do have a receipt. I don't know if you do that, but
you have to have that receipt.
You do, yep.
Just the Russian government, they're sticklers when it comes to that receipt.
That's right.
And 15 days, they're not doing it for you. I also like the distinction between opposition research and research into your opponent. Very different things.
Totally different things.
I'm glad Trump cleared that out for us. Otherwise, I would have made that mistake. I would have confused those two things, thought they were the same.
So July 19th, the Senate Judiciary Committee asked that Donald Trump Jr. turn over all documents, quote, relating to any attempts or actions taken by the Trump organization or Trump campaign to coordinate, encourage, gain, release, or otherwise use information related to Russia's influence campaign aimed at the U.S. 2016 presidential election. So in a letter by the committee, it asks in particular for any documents related to the June 2016 meeting with Veselnitskaya, as well as any and all communications he had with a long list of specific Trump campaign officials and Russian businesses and or individuals.
I love the list of verbs: coordinate, encourage, gain, release, encourage, manipulate, defenestrate, coordinate, complicate. They got to get all those verbs in there.
Pretty much covers the entire gambit of verbs. So, to the New York Times, Trump criticizes Jeff Sessions for recusing himself from the Russian investigation.
Almost as bad as reversing a recusal.
Yeah, you don't want to reverse
criticizing someone for not reversing a recusal.
Yeah, you don't want to go back on your recusal. Never.
No, you can't do it.
Yeah, it's possible. So, the New York Times reports that Manafort owed millions to pro-Russia interests. A spokesman for Manafort says those debts are not current.
I don't think that was the point with why that's a problem. Look, if
they're not current, we're fine.
That was years ago. Years ago that he owed those pro-Russian interests. Kind of missing the point, Manny. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is.
Yep. So now, July 20th, Mueller is expanding again. So here we go. Mueller expands his investigation into the business dealings of Trump. Sessions says he will serve the president as long as it's appropriate. I do declare it may no longer be appropriate to serve you. So I think it's just odd. He's got the most proper phrasing, though. This is very nice. I like it.
Yeah, and I'm glad we all really care about appropriateness here. I'm glad we're all acting appropriately in the Trump administration.
So July 21st, Anthony Scaramucci, a.k.a. The Mooch, is announced as the new White House communications director. Of course he is. That's just, why would he even,
And he's still, I'm sure that he's still in that position today. It's going to be a long tenure as White House communications director.
Yep. So here's some more Senate investigations. Oh boy. So July 24th is when Trump's son-in-law and White House advisor, Jared Kushner, and Middle East broker, and what's his, I don't know, there's like 30,000 things he's in charge of.
He's in the Middle East, which that should be its own thing. That's been hard for a long time. I think we could specialize. He's also best friend to bin Salman, the truly, as we've discovered, the truly dedicated to reform bin Salman. I think we can't pretend otherwise.
That's right.
I refuse to call him MBS. Everybody calls him that, and I just think when you have a guy murdered and dismembered in your embassy, let's cut it out with the cute nicknames.
Don't forget burn in acid.
Oh, he burned him in acid. I didn't know that detail.
Yeah, that was one of the other day I read something about I think they burned him in acid straight up Breaking Bad style. So good times. Man.
It seems, why would you dismember him then?
I know.
Just
I don't
straight
know.
to the
Maybe
acid
the barrels were specifically fit for, I don't know.
Too much red tape in the Saudi Arabian journalist assassination program. That's the real scandal there.
Too much bureaucracy. So Jared Kushner meets for 2 hours with the Senate Intelligence Committee investigators, releases a statement saying, quote, "I did not collude." I don't know how he speaks. I was going to try and imitate his voice, but no one has ever heard him speak. So I did not, I did not collude, nor I don't know.
You're giving him a bit of a I did not collude. I did not.
I did not collude. I did not. Oh, hi, Mar.
Yeah. What's that guy's name?
Oh God, what is his name?
Tommy Wiseau, I believe.
Tommy Wiseau. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
My first thought was Tony Iommi, but that's the guitarist for Black Sabbath. That's a very different outfit.
Totally different. Yeah. So okay. Let me just say it in my own voice. Quote, "I did not collude, nor know of anyone else in the campaign who colluded with any foreign government," end quote. So in this statement, Kushner says that he can recall only 2 meetings with Russian government representatives during the campaign and only 2 meetings during the transition. So in this statement, it also says that Kushner spoke briefly to the Russian ambassador, Kislyak, at the Mayflower Hotel in Washington, D.C. in April of 2016 prior to the speech by Trump on foreign affairs. So it also states that Kushner met with Kislyak for only 20 to 30 minutes at Trump Tower on December 1st, 2016. And he also says he met with Sergei Gorkov in New York on December 13th, 2016 for only about 20 to 25 minutes. Pretty much standard time, I guess, for meeting.
Yeah, 20 to 30 minutes. That's as long as a collusion meeting can go is 20 to 30 minutes.
I think so. Once you get into like the 35, 40 minute range, it's like, no, come on.
Yeah, no, then that's when you're talking about adoption. Yeah. I think that's when it switches over
that's true.
into different topics.
So he was, on the 13th of December 2016, he met for obviously only 20 to 25 minutes, and he attended a meeting that was arranged by Donald Trump Jr. with what's her name? Natalia Veselnitskaya, Russian attorney. Thank you. A Russian attorney at Trump Tower on June 9th.
A lot of meetings.
Don't go past 30 minutes when you collude. Done. And your colluding meetings. So July 25th, Manafort meets with Senate Intelligence Committee staff who ask him about the June 2016 Trump Tower meeting. The same day, the Senate Judiciary Committee subpoenas Manafort for broad questioning. So, what do you like to do on the weekends?
I hope he didn't think that was questions about all the broads he's been with.
I could totally went that way, yeah. So Kushner meets privately with House Intelligence Committee.
Ooh, privately.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And also on July 25th, Trump tells the Wall Street Journal that he's, quote, just looking at firing Jeff Sessions. Just looking at it.
That would be fine. It's not like there's any important, Department of Justice stuff going to happen tomorrow.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah.
Yep, here we go. July 26th.
Go ahead with that.
So on this day, the home of Trump's foreign campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, his house is raided by the FBI.
Ooh, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal, yeah. And all they found were endless reptile skin clothes. That's all they found.
And they found all these ostriches in his apartment.
Yeah.
I believe he was actually making the ostrich skin suits right there on the premises, which that's a crime. I'm pretty sure.
That is, yeah, very cool.
You can't import those birds for that purpose. That's...
So July 27th, Trump foreign policy advisor during the campaign, who we lovingly call Big Papa, a.k.a. Papadopoulos, is arrested at Dulles International Airport on charges that he lied to FBI agents. Wah, wah.
Oh.
Not to be Luminowski. It's that one guy that was like, wah, wah.
Yeah, but you have to do it, in order to do it as Lewandowski would do it, you have to do it upon hearing about developmentally disabled children being separated from their parents at the border.
Right.
I think so. Doing it now is fine. It's not a Lewandowski.
Right. Good point.
It's only a Lewandowski when it is grossly immoral and inappropriate.
Grossly cruel. So according to the court document, Papadopoulos met with government investigators, quote, on numerous occasions to provide information and answer questions.
And he only did one of those things. He did not, I would not describe what he did as providing information.
Right, exactly. So also on the 27th, investigator Bill Browder tells senators that Veselnitskaya, I went with that one.
You had a good run.
You had a good run. Why is it so hard for me? That's on the couch. We got to create another song for this one.
Veselnitskaya, you're gonna go higher. As long as you think the Crimea belongs to Russia. Veselnitskaya, gonna adopt some Russian children as long as the sanctions go away. That's it. That's all I got.
So the U.S. Senate sends new Russian sanctions to Trump's desk in the Oval Office.
Wonderful.
He's
going to very happily sign those.
He's so happy about that. So July 28th, Russia expels U.S. diplomats in reaction to the sanction bill.
Man, he didn't even sign it yet. Give him some time.
I know. July 30th, according to PBS over this weekend, quote, incoming White House Chief of Staff John Kelly reportedly tells Sessions his job is safe.
Oh, good. Good job, John.
So that's nice.
Yeah. I wonder if anyone else's job isn't safe, though.
Yeah. I wonder. July 31st, Scaramucci is fired as the White House communications director. He did not communicate effectively.
Literally 10 days.
Nice 10-day run. Yep. That's it. 10 days. Wow.
My first job that I hated, I worked at a 99-cent store when I was 15, and I hated it. And I lasted 3 weeks. I'm just saying. And I quit. I wasn't even fired.
I wonder if there's people that get apply at the Dollar Tree and I did work at a 99-cent store and now it's time to move up.
Yeah. And then they also have those $5 and below stores. That's the next level. And then eventually you're working at De Beers. It's like a retail RPG. That's, there's different levels.
Jesus. So true. So August 1st, this is you.
That's me. So now we're on to August, and we're going to start August 1st. According to factcheck.org, quote, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders confirms that the president was involved in drafting the statement that Donald Trump Jr. issued on July 8th about the meeting that he and other Trump campaign officials had with Russian representatives on June 9th, 2016. Remember earlier how we talked about how he didn't do that, and he said he didn't do that. Well, things happen. Anyway, that statement was misleading. It failed to mention that Donald Trump Jr. agreed to the meeting after being promised, quote, some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary as, quote, part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump, according to emails that Donald Trump Jr. released on July 11th. Sanders says, quote, the president weighed in as any father would, based on limited information that he had. He certainly didn't dictate, but like I said, he weighed in, offering suggestions like any father would do. He's the president also.
But more
and Donald Trump Jr. is ostensibly the head of this billion-dollar company now. I just wish we could elevate it above, your son writing a letter apologizing for, graffitiing something lewd and lascivious on someone's front porch. I wish we could elevate. We talk about the debasing the discourse, and I think this is definitely part of it. This contradicts an earlier statement by Jay Sekulow, one of the president's attorneys, who said on Good Morning America on July 12th that the president wasn't involved.
So basically it's a wash then. We can move on to the next non-scandal?
Oh yeah, this doesn't matter at all, and no one cares. Okay, August 2nd, President Trump signs a bill for new sanctions against Russia, saying that the bill was, quote, flawed. And also on this day, Rosenstein, in a letter outlining the scope of the Russia investigation, states that Robert Mueller has the authority to investigate, quote, allegations that Paul Manafort committed a crime or crimes by colluding with Russian government officials with respect to Russia government's efforts to interfere with the 2016 election for President of the United States in violation of United States law. All right, so one thing about August, one thing about this whole investigation, it's document time.
Yeah.
The Senate, the House, they've got a problem. They need documents bad.
Addictions.
So also on August 2nd, the Trump campaign turns over 20,000 documents to the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Not bad.
Manafort turns over 400 pages of documents to the Senate Judiciary Committee. And then 2 days later, on August 4th, Donald Trump Jr. turns over 250 pages of documents to the Senate Judiciary Committee.
And at this point, sadly, we may have to talk about the document hoarding addiction going on with the key members of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, it's really disturbing. I want to know just how are they? I'm trying to think of how many documents I could possibly have about anything.
Yeah, 20,000.
I mean, I know the Trump campaign. I know it's a big deal, but 20,000 documents. I just imagine all right, here's a photocopy of our receipt to Arby's, for example. Just what do they have? I just want to know what these are.
And the real question is, what about Hillary's emails? I'm just joking.
Oh, that's true. Those are documents.
I just like to throw that in there randomly.
I think this is probably why she was investigated so heavily.
Yes.
They're documents. We need all these documents. Give us more. And they knew, oh man, so many emails. That's really the source of that, I believe. Yeah. August 5th, the next day, on Russian TV.
The Fox News of Russia.
Oh, of course. The Russian ambassador Kiselak insists that he and Flynn never talked about sanctions despite reports stating otherwise. Who are you going to believe?
Yeah, I believe RT.
I believe Kiselak. Hashtag believe Kiselak.
Yep.
A few days later, August 10th, the president says he was surprised by the July FBI raid at Manafort's house and has always found Manafort to be a good man.
He's fucking obsessed with seeing a reptile and coveting its skin, but hey, he's still a good man.
Still a good man, and don't forget the ostriches. He's also the man knows to find skin.
Yeah. It's not just reptiles.
And there's never been a depiction of anyone in any media, especially film, in which loving of nice, well-moisturized skin was a downside.
Yes.
A few days later, August 14th.
My brother's birthday yet again.
Oh, that's right. Not a half birthday, but the regular old birthday.
That's right. The normal one.
Well, this was his birthday gift on 2017. Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, sends a letter to congressional investigators disputing the Steele dossier made public in January. So then on August 22nd...
the Senate Judiciary Committee takes a break from collecting documents.
Yeah, they've got to justify this, and so they actually have to have hearings.
That's right.
And on the 22nd, they had a day-long hearing with the Fusion GPS founder. And then we're going to close off August a week later on August 28th, big day. On this day, the Washington Post and ABC News report that the former chief counsel for the Trump Organization and attorney, Michael Cohen, provided congressional investigators with a statement that Trump signed a, quote, letter of intent during the 2016 campaign to pursue, quote, a proposal for Trump Tower Moscow. Cohen told Congress that Trump signed the letter of intent with IC Expert Investment Company, a Moscow-based developer, on October 28th, 2015. And just IC Expert Investment Company is the worst name for a company I've ever heard.
Yeah, that sounds made
Yeah,
up.
I run Do Good Investments. That's my company. Yeah, that's terrible. He also explained to Congress that in January 2016, he emailed Dmitry Peskov, the press secretary for Russian President Vladimir Putin, in an attempt to gain the approvals that were necessary for this project, saying, quote, those permissions were never provided. I decided to abandon the proposal less than 2 weeks later for business reasons, and do not recall any response to my email, nor any other contacts by me with Mr. Peskov or other Russian government officials about the proposal. Fair enough. In a separate statement written to ABC News, Michael Cohen states that, quote, the Trump-Moscow proposal was simply one of many development opportunities that the Trump Organization considered and ultimately rejected.
Kind of like the proposal of making America great again.
Oh, they're gonna do it.
I know.
They're still gonna do it.
Give him time.
He's got 2 more years.
That's true.
Well, more than 2 years. I mean,
yeah.
It's kind of like Obama taking away all the guns. You know, he's not president anymore, but you know he's part of the deep state. He still has connections.
Oh, yeah.
There's still time.
That just goes with that being said.
Yeah, this is just his, his deception.
Mm-hmm.
You think, I can relax a little bit now that Obama's not president. I can buy the AK-47. I can freely go to the gun range and whatever. But that's how he gets you. Gets you out in the open.
So we're moving into September. DTJR in trouble.
Oh, ho, ho.
Yeah. So, September 7th, behind closed doors, Donald Trump Jr. spends 5 hours answering the questions of the Senate Judiciary Committee investigators.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's not 30 minutes or 20 minutes.
Yeah, so that's how you know it's legit.
Yeah. So, in prepared remarks, Trump Jr. states, I did not collude with any foreign government and do not know anyone who did. He also discusses his meeting with the Russian lawyer and favorite person that this podcaster loves to pronounce, Natalia Veselnitskaya, and 5...
Woo!
Yeah, I'm good at this. I'm just going to name my kid that. And 5 or 6 others at Trump Tower in New York on June 9th, 2016. So Trump Jr. says that he was, quote, skeptical, but nonetheless intrigued by an email he received from a Russian acquaintance that claimed that the Russian government had, quote, official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary Clinton and her dealings with Russia. Dun, dun, dun. And those key members of the Senate Judiciary Committee were drooling all over their next, for their next fix of documents. People are sick, seriously. So Trump Jr. says, quote, to the extent that they had information concerning the fitness, character, or qualifications of a presidential candidate, I believe that I should at least hear them out. Trump Jr. stated...
Yeah, I mean, totally.
What's a son to do? Trump Jr. stated that that the meeting lasted 20 to 30 minutes, obviously, and produced no significant information or collusion, obviously, about Clinton. I have no recollection, this is a quote here, I have no recollection of any documents being offered or left for us, he says.
Or left for us.
To which
just like Veselnitskaya just looked off, off to the side and just with her other hand just left some documents on a table.
Yeah. Okay, so we're still on September 7th. Let's bring Facebook into this bitch.
Oh.
So
Let's do it.
The New York Times details Russian fake accounts and bots on Facebook and Twitter.
I can't believe you can make a fake account on either
I know,
of those services.
it sounds like something out of a
These are
sci-fi
truly
novel.
the hackers.
Yeah. So
God, this is like year 3000 stuff.
Facebook admits it found fake accounts likely tied to Russia. So
Likely story.
You could like that if you want. So September 15th.
I'll give that the sad emoji, the sad reaction.
September 15th, Facebook hands over information to Mueller on Russian ads. Okay, so here we go. We got a break for Manafort. Oh, I almost said a break for Mueller. Never a break for Mueller. A break for Manafort comes on September 19th when CNN reports that federal investigators, quote, wiretapped former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort under secret court orders before and after the election, end quote, citing unnamed sources. So according to CNN, 2 warrants were obtained by the FBI to conduct surveillance of Manafort from the FISA court. CNN writes, quote, it is unclear when the new warrant started. Anyway, back to Facebook. September 22nd, Russia denies using Facebook to try to influence the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Good enough for me.
Yeah, they denied it strongly. I think that we need to be clear about that.
I left
it was
out a word.
strong
Strongly.
denial.
Yep.
If they just denied it, they're full of shit, but it's a strong denial, so it's true.
So Trump tweets out, quote, the Russia hoax continues. Now it's ads on Facebook. What about the totally biased and dishonest media coverage in favor of crooked Hillary?
So now this is where his capitalization betrays him, because media is capitalized, which
good point.
means that he has a great deal
be
of
lowercase. Yeah.
It should be lowercased. It should be there should be a new version of lowercasing, like double lowercasing for the media.
At least change
the
font even lower if that's even possible.
Italicize it or something. This shows deep in his heart he loves the media. Deep in his beautiful heart.
So, September 26, 2017, Roger Stone, we haven't heard him from...
Yeah, we haven't. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, old Roger Stone, a.k.a. Batman villain, testifies for 3 hours in a closed session of the House Intelligence Committee. In a written testimony to the committee, Stone flat out denies any collusion with the Russians, saying, quote, to be clear, I have never represented any Russian clients and have never been to Russia and never had any communications with any Russians or individuals fronting for Russians in connection with the 2016 presidential election. I don't know where Russia is on a map. I hate white Russians, but not as much as black Russians. I don't like the band Rush. I disavow all history books that mention Russia. Okay, I added all that last part, obviously.
Yeah, I think he played his cards a little.
He did not say that at all.
Yeah, I can believe it if he did say it. Yeah. But I understand not liking the band Rush, though. I mean, if he had said that, I would have.
Greatest drummer of all time.
Well, one that's false. I get Rush amnesia, where I think, I'm going to listen to Rush. I'm like, this just isn't very good.
White Russians are kind of gross, too. But anyway.
I drank a few back in my drinking days. Yeah, they were okay.
Yeah. Seems weird mixing like milk and alcohol.
Yeah, it does seem very... I was very skeptical. I was skeptical but intrigued, to use a DT Junior aphorism. Skeptical but intrigued. That should be the name of his autobiography.
So in this meeting, Stone refuses to name who worked with him and Assange. That's Julian Assange of WikiLeaks.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the key to being able to clearly claim that you've never worked with the Russians. You just don't mention that that's who you're working with.
Right.
And then it's very simple.
So after this hearing, Adam West Batman, arch nemesis the Penguin, Roger Stone, tells reporters that Manafort, who was once Stone's partner in a political consulting firm, expects to be indicted, saying, quote, I believe his attorneys informed my attorneys that they didn't seem to know when nor what the charge may be. Oh, man.
And then I believe he ended that that discussion with, wah, wah. I think that's how it ended. I'm gonna get that in there.
I forget who played the Penguin, but in the Adam West version of Batman. But
yeah, I don't know, because it was Danny DeVito in the Tim Burton.
Yeah,
I believe.
So October.
We went to October. So October 1st, 2017, my sobriety date, actually.
Nice.
5 years. There was also when the Las Vegas shooting happened. So that was a fun combo. It's like, oh man, 5 years and great.
Worst possible. Yep.
Good combo. I don't recommend it. So anyway, on October 1st, President Trump misses the October 1st deadline to impose new required sanctions on Russia.
Nothing to move here, move to see here, move on. Let's go. There we go.
See, this is why I didn't get why Russia had to impinge on these sanctions so early. They could have just waited a little bit. They should have trusted. They should have trusted Trump, is all I'm saying. You know, they bought so many Facebook ads for him. They could have at least given him a few days. That's all I'm saying. I think that's only fair. October 2nd, the next day, according to factcheck.org.
And that's not to be confused with alternativefactcheck.org, by the way.
Oh, and also that website doesn't exist.
Shit.
I did look for it, though. I was like, that could be a website.
I just thought I made that up.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. It should really, though. Anyway, so according to factcheck.org, quote, Facebook gives the Senate and House Intelligence Committees more than 3,000 ads linked to Russia that it says appeared on the social media site during the 2016 campaign. And I hope that they gave them these ads on individual documents so they could really just pump up their document numbers.
Oh, yes.
In a blog post, Elliot Schrage, president of policy and communications at the company, says the ads reach an estimated 10 million people in the United States. A couple days later, on October 4th, the Republican chairman and ranking Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee hold a joint press conference to address the newest updates on the Russia investigation. The committee chairman, Senator Richard Burr, says, quote, "The issue of collusion is still open." Referring to possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia to influence the 2016 presidential election, he states that the committee has interviewed over 100 people and has 25 more interviews on the schedule for October. He also stated that the committee hopes to complete their investigation before the 2018 midterm elections next November.
Which is, of course, right now.
Right now, yeah, it's going to be...
You better be driving to go vote. Go vote!
You better be. As we record this, so we had to record this in 2 chunks, and it's going to be Election Day, for me at least, in approximately 23 minutes.
Nice.
So get ready, and when you hear this, it'll be early on Election Day, and I will be, after I stay up all night editing this, I'm going to be heading out to vote myself. That's what cool people do. They participate in their democracy.
Yeah.
So the next day, October 5th, Big Papadopoulos pleads guilty to lying to FBI agents. Oh, buddy.
As well as having enough to feed the needy. So there were also several accounts of lacing lyrical douches, which of course is against federal law.
You don't know. There's a lot of laws. Just don't
lyrical
talk to them.
douches are just, you don't mess with that, really.
Yeah, you don't.
You
really
move past it.
Lyrical douches, rhetorical enemas. You don't want to deal with any of that. So about a week later, on October 13th, Reince Priebus, the president's former chief of staff, is interviewed by federal investigators. His attorney, William Burke, said in a statement, quote, "Mr. Priebus was voluntarily interviewed by Special Counselor Mueller's team today. He was happy to answer all of their questions."
Maybe a little too happy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and yes, you are correct. He was too happy to do it. On October 17th, a report came out that Russian trolling operation likely cost $2.3 million and reached 6 million people.
Okay, so basically like the audience of this podcast, if you need a comparison.
Oh, yeah. This is... We're reaching 6 million people just every hour.
Yeah,
that's how many people listen. Our numbers are beautiful. They're bigly numbers, and they're smart people, but we love the poorly educated. Yep. They're listening out there too, I imagine. The next day, October 18th, Jeff Sessions testifies before the Senate Judiciary Committee again.
Jeez.
At this hearing, Senator Lindsey Graham asked Sessions, quote, "Did you ever overhear a conversation between you and anybody on the Trump campaign who talked about meeting with Russians?" Sessions indicates that he did not, by saying, "I have not seen anything that would indicate a collusion with Russians to impact the campaign." According to factcheck.org, it was later disclosed that Russia was discussed at a March 31st, 2016 meeting chaired by Sessions of the campaign's National Security Advisory Committee. At that meeting, Papadopoulos said he had contacts in Russia and could help arrange a meeting between Trump and Putin. Sessions would later say that he, quote, pushed back at the idea of such a meeting. Well, at least he's pushing.
So on my mom's birthday...
Oh, October 24th?
Yeah.
Man, we're getting everybody's birthdays in here. That's lovely. So yes, on October 24th, NBC News reports that the Podesta Group and the group's co-founder, Tony Podesta, brother of Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta.
Podesta's all the way down.
A lot of Podestas in one sentence. Oh, everywhere. Up, down, left, right.
As far as the eyes can see.
Are subjects of the special counsel's investigation. John Podesta is not affiliated with the firm. Citing unnamed sources, NBC News says federal investigators are interested in the Podesta Group's work from 2012 to 2014 for a public relations campaign organized by Manafort, Trump's former campaign chairman, for a nonprofit called the European Center for a Modern Ukraine. Modern just means Russian.
Yeah, I was like, that means Russian. Yeah.
The nonprofit reportedly was backed by the, quote, pro-Russian and oligarch-funded Ukrainian political party that was in control of Ukraine at the time, according to NBC News. A spokesman for the Podesta Group tells NBC News in a statement that the firm, quote, is cooperating fully with the special counsel's office and has taken every possible step to provide documentation that confirms timely compliance.
Oh, okay.
It's actually interesting. I just finished a book about the end of the Soviet Union and how far back the Crimea stuff really goes. That's not a recent thing. It's actually interesting history if our listeners are interested in that kind of thing. I think The Last Empire was the name of the book I read. Very good.
Cool.
And talked about that. That was a big kind of sticking point in.
Is it like a newer book or is it dated?
It came out a few years ago, I think. It's fairly recent.
Cool.
It covers the last 6 months of the USSR and all of the different republics and their kind of negotiations and their relationship with Gorbachev and all that kind of stuff. And this is a big issue about the Crimea, because the Crimea is, if I'm remembering correctly, mostly Russians, mostly ethnic Russians. And so there was an issue about, in the new political reality, if Ukraine is just a totally independent country, what does that mean for the ethnic Russians living in the Crimea? This isn't a new thing. Yeah. This has been going on for a while. And Manafort didn't solve it. And I'm not surprised. So we're going to end. We got a big day on October 30th. We're going to end out October. On this day, Manafort and Rick Gates, Manafort's former business associate and a Trump campaign aide, are both indicted on money laundering and tax evasion charges related to their work for a pro-Russia political party in Ukraine.
Yay. Congratulations.
Now congratulations. And that's a good place as ever for a womp womp. None of them are developmentally disabled, so it's perfectly fine. Between 2006 and 2015, Manafort controlled firms that did, quote, political consulting, lobbying, and public relations for the government of Ukraine, the Party of Regions, and its presidential candidate, Viktor Yanukovych, and then later for the opposition bloc, a successor to the Party of Regions, according to the indictment. Yanukovych, a close ally of Putin, was elected president of Ukraine in 2010, but fled the country in 2014 after a popular uprising. The opposition bloc formed after Yanukovych fled Ukraine. Still served longer than Scaramucci. Just want to put that out there. Manafort allegedly laundered more than $18 million that he used to buy property, goods, and services, and ostrich skin suits, of course, in the United States without paying federal taxes. Gates transferred more than $3 million from the offshore accounts to other accounts he controlled, the indictment claims, or the indictment says. The indictment contains 12 counts: conspiracy against the United States, conspiracy to launder money, unregistered agents of a foreign principal, which we know well, false and misleading Foreign Agents Registration Act statements, false statements, and 7 counts of failure to file reports of foreign bank and financial accounts, a Department of Justice press release says. Gates joined the Trump campaign at around the same time that Manafort became the campaign's convention manager in late March of 2016. He served as Manafort's deputy and remained with the campaign after Manafort left in August 2016. Separately, the Department of Justice announces that George Papadopoulos, a foreign policy advisor for the Trump campaign, pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his contacts with a professor who Papadopoulos understood to have substantial connections to Russian government officials. This is old news to us. We know all about what Big Papa's up to. Mifsud, I believe. Professor Mifsud. Papadopoulos, who became a campaign advisor in March 2016, learned from the professor in April 2016 that Russia possessed dirt on Hillary Clinton in the form of thousands of emails. And you just know the Senate and the House are just chomping at the bit to get those documents. And this is all according to a statement from the Justice Department stipulating the facts of the case against Papadopoulos. However, Big Papa falsely told the FBI, we have to go over it again. He falsely told the FBI multiple times that he learned that information about Clinton prior to joining the Trump campaign, according to the statement. I know we don't want to revisit it, but it's the truth. We just have to admit this about Big Papa. He misled the FBI. It's truly a sad thing. Also, according to the statement, the professor also introduced Papadopoulos to two others, a female Russian national who Papadopoulos believed had connections to senior Russian government officials, and an individual in Moscow who told defendant Papadopoulos that he had connections to the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Papadopoulos lied to the FBI about his contacts with the female Russian national and failed initially to disclose his contacts with the Russian MFA connection, the statement says. And again, those are capitalized, by the way. Female Russian national and Russian MFA connection. That's their names. These are proper names. First name female, last name national, middle name Russian. And we got one more month until the big date that we're ending with. We got November. Brent,
excited.
Take it away.
The home stretch now, guys. So November, sometime in November, we don't know the time, Mueller's team interviews Kushner. So they also interview White House counsel Don McGowan for the first time. He speaks with the team at least 3 times.
I like that. It was like Don McGowan. I like that little twist you put to his name.
So November 2nd, Carter Page testifies behind closed doors before the House Intelligence Committee, which later releases a transcript.
This is a pretty good turnaround between a meeting happening and releasing what that meeting was actually about.
Yeah, that's
pretty
rare.
impressive.
At this point.
Yeah, I'd expected that we would have got that information today.
Exactly. Just now.
The way things are going.
November 11th, Trump says Putin privately assured him he didn't meddle. Good enough for me.
Privately and strongly assured him, of course.
So on the next day, on November 12th, Trump tells reporters he accepts U.S. intel over Putin's assurances, saying, I'm with our agencies. The Federal Bureau of Witch Hunting, I think is what he...
Oh, yes, the FBWUH.
Yep.
I forgot. That's what he renamed it. See, that's what I would do if I was Trump, because I don't know what power he has to name these agencies, but I would just... he's got broad jurisdiction over the FBI. They're part of the executive branch. Just go hog wild.
Yeah,
just rename
he has
the Federal
nicknames
Bureau
for
of Witch Hunting.
Rubio and all his political opponents. Like, why not just change the names of the FBI? The slimy FBI or whatever. You could do that too.
Yeah, you were officially called officers. Now you're officially called witch hunter generals. Just go with it.
So, November 14th, Sessions changes his account, claiming before the House Judiciary Committee that he did remember a 2016 Big Papa meeting at the Trump Hotel, where the popster claimed he knew people who might be able to arrange a Trump-Putin meeting.
Well, I'm glad, it's better late than never when it comes to remembering meetings that you were at.
Yep, exactly. So, November 16th, Senate Judiciary Committee says that Kushner didn't tell them about WikiLeaks emails and talks for a quote, backdoor channel with Russians.
See, I don't fault Kushner here. I'm sure he would have told them this if he was able to arrange a backdoor channel with the Senate Judiciary Committee. I think that's the only way he would have felt comfortable.
He doesn't understand how to
information.
deal with front door meetings. That's the key here.
Yeah, he's just like, what is this? I'm supposed to speak?
Yeah, that's why we never see him speak. He's like...
Yeah, he thinks you don't speak at backdoor meetings.
So November 21st, the New York Times obtains a letter from the president's attorney to Mueller's team about the possibility of him testifying. So here is some tasty tidbits.
Yeah, I would really recommend the New York Times does a really good breakdown of this letter. And these are just some of the tastier tidbits, but there's definitely more. I would recommend checking that out.
So here's one. We'll start here. Quote, he could, if he wished, terminate the inquiry, or even exercise his power to pardon if he so desired.
Well, good for him.
And another one here, quote, astounding public relations about the corruption within the FBI and Department of Justice, which appears to have led to the alleged Russia collusion investigation.
Astounding public revelations. I wouldn't think the Federal Bureau of Witch Hunting would be corrupt. I think they're stand-up guys and women.
Here's another. The records and testimony we have pursuant to the president's directive already voluntarily provided to your office allow you to delve into the conversations and actions that occurred in a significant and exhaustive manner, including, but not limited to, the testimony of the president's interlocutors themselves. In light of these voluntary offerings, your office clearly lacks the requisite need to personally interview the president. Jeez.
Yeah, you've already got everything you need. You cronies. I just love the passive-aggressive. We have provided extensive conversations and actions. You need to get on the ball.
So another one is far, two fars. So far from
there are two fars. That is not a typo.
Far away far from obstructing justice, the only individual in the entire Flynn story that ensured swift justice was the president. Yeah, I mean...
Swift justice.
It's true. Say it 2 times, it's true. Another one here, quote, while Mr. Comey may or may not have misunderstood, misinterpreted, or misremembered the president's alleged comments. Jeez.
I love this just because because hashtag that thing gate. I feel that
thing.
Trump just wanted them to put that in there. Just like he misunderstood and misinterpreted what that was all about. Trump doesn't want to admit the passion that's deep inside.
Exactly.
And that he cannot deny for long.
And the last one here, quote, we remind you of these facts simply because even assuming, arguendo, that the president did order the termination of an investigation, and the president, along with Mr. Comey in his testimony and in his actions, have made it clear that he did not, this could not constitute obstruction of justice. Okay, well, thank you.
Cannot.
Jeez. Wow.
There actually is, in a saner time, there are interesting arguments which have been, my understanding is they've been rejected about the unitary executive. Basically, I mean, the basic argument here, as I understand it, and I'm not a legal expert by any stretch of the imagination, is the idea that basically the president can do what he wants. And so, like, the entirety of the executive is entrusted to him. And so... like he kind of by definition can't obstruct justice because he is the law.
Right. Yeah.
When it comes to this kind of stuff. And so that's what they're saying here. Isn't that
there
great?
There is a comment. I don't know the exact phrasing or what he said where I think Kavanaugh agrees with this. Do you remember seeing him saying that? I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, this was part of the
Years ago.
Was the big discussion about Kavanaugh kind of pre Dr. Blasey Ford and her allegations. The big controversy about Kavanaugh was, I don't know if he would go this far, but about his deference to the executive and his belief in the power of the executive and whether or not you could, for example, subpoena a president. Mm-hmm. And his, as I understand it, at least his claim during the hearings, the Supreme Court hearings before the Senate, he claimed that a president can be investigated, but not until after they're through with their office.
Oh, right. Yeah.
The way the way he, at least the way he put it in the hearings. Mm-hmm. He said that any investigation would have to be afterwards, and that the only kind of investigation that could happen during the presidency would be impeachment hearings. Mm-hmm. But that was the big. I highly recommend the podcast Lawfare, also a really good blog and a website in general. They put out abridged versions of the Kavanaugh hearings.
Oh, cool.
So the entire, because I mean, there's like 30 hours or something of hearings, something, and they kind of cut it down to a few hours.
Okay. They get the I like beer in there, and they keep that in there. That's
and they highlight these discussions that he had with various senators about these kind of things.
What's it called? What was the title?
So it's Lawfare is the podcast.
Okay.
And it's also I think like a blog, and it's just a website where national security law people talk about things.
Okay, so what? December 1st.
December 1st is where we're going to end today. Michael Flynn, former and now future past NSA, National Security Advisor. I can't keep track anymore. Anyway, December 1st, 2017, he pleads guilty to lying to the FBI and indicates that he will cooperate with Mueller's investigation.
Oh, broken.
And with that ends part 3 of our episode of our series on the Russia investigation.
That is correct. Yeah.
3 of 4. We have to stop talking about this.
Please. But which is good timing if you think of it, because I was reading stuff saying some articles, I think it was in The Hill or something, they were talking about how Mueller is saying, or people around him are saying that he's probably going to finish up his investigations, but he's obviously waiting for after the midterms. So I don't know if that means by the end of the year, but hopefully by the end of this podcast, these podcast series that we have.
Yeah, hopefully right now he's just released his report and we can,
like on election day, like,
Yeah, I'm not sure where we'll end. I mean, we'll probably I imagine we won't be able to cover we won't be able to cover up till, tomorrow, for example. But we'll get the main highlights out of the way. Obviously this is still something ongoing. Maybe when Mueller does release the report, which may, as these reports suggest, might be sooner than later. We might be able to do, maybe a mini episode on that about, just kind of cleaning up the rest of this. But that is part 3 in the bag. So what did you learn, Brent? What was the thing that intrigued you most about this episode?
That's a good question, because I'm trying to think back, because of we kind of recorded this in 2 sessions too. I know. I mean, as far as today goes, the brief blink of an eye that is just the life of Scaramucci's time in office is just astounding, and doing so much, saying so many things. This is so funny if it wasn't so horrifying, but it's very funny and horrifying at the exact same time, which is a very strange feeling. I said this when Trump was initially elected, that I wish he could be elected in an alternative universe, and I could watch it as a reality TV show. On this podcast, we could do some sort of Truman Show type thing for him, where he could just be the president, and we can watch this all happen, but it's in another world, and meanwhile we have something else happening here. Looks a little bit more normal. That would be great, but alas, it cannot be. So what about you? What did you learn? I think I actually, something we just talked about. I think that a letter that the Trump's lawyers sent to the Mueller investigation, I thought we didn't get to talk about, as much of, the whole thing, there's just too much going on. But I recommend people check out that letter. The New York Times, they do a good breakdown. And they do good cross-referencing, a lot of the legal issues behind this kind of stuff, which I think is interesting. It's just interesting in its own right, and it would be a lot more interesting if somebody else was president, just so they weren't so live issues. But I think that was the most interesting thing that I came up with, that I came across while doing the research for this episode. Yeah, and tomorrow, definitely I'm excited about that. That'll be good. So tomorrow, actually for me, literally. Today, it just hit midnight for me, midnight 02 actually, is Election Day. Go vote. Please go vote. It's just part of what it is to be a citizen. It's just your basic, it's literally all you have to do. Very simple. As a citizen. It takes a few minutes. Just go early. I always go, if you don't have early voting, which doesn't matter now at this point. The state of Nevada, I love. I do love the voting here. That's what I love, because it's isn't it 2 weeks? Yeah, you get 2 weeks. It's just, you get everything in advance. It's really close to me. I can walk to it. It's so close. Yeah, there's no excuse. Yeah, people that don't vote that make me mad. But yeah. If you can, go as early as you can. I'm literally going to go. Polls open in Michigan at 7. I'm going to be there at 7. That ensures that you can get in and out, no problem. But yeah, if you get, I think the key thing is, if you get in line, you have to vote. They can't, you just have to be in line in time. And, figure out who to vote for. Take a quick look at your sample ballot, which, you should be able to just Google. If you Google sample ballot for wherever you are, it's easy enough to get. Just take a quick glance. You can get I know there's so often so many candidates that maybe you didn't do as much research as you should have. Right. I'm the same thing here. My really simple test is I look at their websites. I look at how well their websites are designed, because if they can't figure out how to get a team together to do that. Right. Let's just say if you go to someone's website as a candidate and it looks like a Crystal Healer website, let's just right off the bat say, let's go to the other one. Let's go to the other guy. Yeah, that's a good, when you got 10 candidates for something, that's a good way to root some of them out. Yeah. You don't have to be an expert at JavaScript to be a state Supreme Court judge, but you have to be able to figure out someone can do that. That's all I would say. And so with that, we're done with this episode. And just to remind everyone, you can reach us via email at nonedarecallitordinary@gmail.com if you want to let us know what we got right, what we got wrong, what topics you'd like to hear us talk about in the future. We're also on Instagram at None Dare Call It Ordinary as well. I haven't been the best with posting stuff, but I'm going to try to get a little bit better than that now that I no longer kill bugs for a living. We are also on Reddit at None Dare Call Ordinary, which is normally just me answering questions about philosophy. But you can, if you want, you can reach me there, see what I'm doing on there. We also do have, I almost hate to admit it, we do have a Twitter account. Yes. At NDCIO. I got on Twitter personally, a few months ago.
I literally have a thing on my phone to limit how much time I spend on it, just because it's easy to just get lost in all the news. It is a really good way to get news.
Really quick
is mostly what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think the key for me is to just follow like 50 people, same. I think. Otherwise, it's just madness. But we are there at NDCIO. And what else? We also have a website, nonedarecallitordinary.com, which will provide links to, wherever you could find us. And once again, so now today, this episode, I'm hoping to get out by around 7 a.m., hopefully. Gonna, power through. And we are going to be doing a bit of a kind of live stream. We're going to experiment with a live stream thing on YouTube. The name is None Dare Call It Ordinary, as you can imagine. And that will be starting at the latest, I believe, will be 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. And we'll just be, just Brent and I will be talking about the election results. We'll be counting things in. We'll figure out whether to be elated or depressed. And if you are the type of person who likes going to an election party but doesn't want to go outside the house, just come on over to us and, chat with us, and we'll talk about the results and see what's going on.
Look forward to it. And with that,
look forward to it. Go vote. And with that, we are done.